The morning air in Colorado was crisp, the kind of cool that made every breath feel fresh and alive. The mountains stretched far and wide, the pine trees swaying gently in the breeze, and the sound of a nearby creek filled the silence between conversations. We had come here for a weekend trip, a group of friends who hadn't all been together in years. Life had scattered us across the country, jobs, families, commitments, but finally, calendars aligned, and here we were. The cabin we rented was nestled at the edge of a valley, its wooden deck facing a breathtaking ridge. From the moment we arrived, the outdoors seemed to call to everyone. Plans for hiking, fishing, and campfires had been tossed around since the first night. It was Saturday morning, and the group had decided on a short hike up a nearby trail. Everyone buzzed with energy, strapping on backpacks, tightening laces, and grabbing walking sticks. Everyone except me and Emily. Emily had been my best friend since college. We'd shared late-night study sessions, dorm room secrets, and more cups of coffee than I could count. She was the kind of person who could make a stranger feel like a lifelong friend in 5 minutes. But over the years, as life grew more complicated, we hadn't spent as much time together. This trip felt like a chance to reconnect. When the group announced the hike, Emily caught my eye. She gave me a small smile, the kind that said, "Not today." I knew her well enough to understand without words. "I think I'll stay back," I said casually, pretending to check my shoelaces. "I've been craving some quiet time. Maybe just enjoy the cabin for a bit." Emily chimed in almost immediately. "Same here. I'm not really in the hiking mood today." Nobody argued. They were too busy buzzing about the trail and the promise of mountain views. Within minutes, they were gone, their voices fading into the woods until all that was left was the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves. Silence settled over the cabin, a kind of peace that felt rare and fragile. I glanced at Emily, who was leaning against the porch railing, her eyes following the tree line where our friends had disappeared. "Well," she said with a grin, "looks like it's just us." "Just us," I echoed, a little more aware of how unusual it felt to be alone with her after so long. We started inside the cabin, putting the kettle on for tea. The cabin was rustic but cozy, stone fireplace, warm wooden floors, and big windows that looked out over the valley. Emily sat cross-legged on the couch, pulling her cardigan tighter around her shoulders. "You know," she said, "I didn't realize how much I missed this. Just being still." I nodded.
Yeah.
Life's been moving too fast lately. Sometimes I feel like I don't even know where the years went. She smiled softly, and for a moment, the weight of time seemed to melt away. As the tea steeped, we started talking, really talking. At first, it was surface level.
Jobs.
Family updates. The usual catching up. But as minutes slipped into hours, the conversation deepened. Emily admitted she had been struggling at work, questioning if the career path she had chosen in her 20s was really what she wanted. I confessed that I often felt overwhelmed by responsibilities, like I was carrying too many things at once and couldn't set any of them down. The honesty between us felt like a release, a reminder of why our friendship had always been so strong. We could be real with each other in a way we couldn't with most people. At some point, I pulled out a deck of cards from the coffee table. "Remember this?" I asked. Her eyes lit up. "Oh my gosh, we used to play this all the time. We sat on the floor, cross-legged, playing rounds of rummy and go fish like we had in college." Each game was punctuated with laughter, inside jokes resurfacing, and playful accusations of cheating. It felt like time traveling, back to a simpler era when worries were smaller and friendship was everything. The kettle whistled again later, and we poured more tea. By then, the sunlight had shifted, filling the cabin with golden beams that made the dust motes dance in the air. Emily stood by the window, gazing out at the mountains. "You know," she said softly, "sometimes I wonder if we spend too much of life chasing the big moments. The promotions, the milestones, the trips. But maybe it's the quiet mornings like this that matter more." Her words struck me. I realized she was right. This, two friends sharing stories, laughter, and silence, was as meaningful as any adventure out there on the trail. We started a puzzle next, spreading the pieces across the coffee table. It was a picture of a mountain lake, the kind that looked a little too much like the one just beyond the cabin. For hours, we pieced it together, sometimes falling into deep conversation, other times just working quietly side by side. By the time the puzzle was halfway done, the sun had dipped lower in the sky. Emily stretched, laughing at how stiff her back felt. "I can't believe we've been doing this all day," she said. "Me neither," I admitted. "But honestly, I wouldn't trade it." She smiled, and in that smile, I saw the years melt away. We weren't two adults weighed down by life. We were just us, two friends who had always found comfort in each other's company. Later, we moved outside, sitting on the porch steps as the sky turned pink and orange. The air grew cooler, and the first stars peeked out. Emily wrapped herself in a blanket, and I poured us both mugs of cocoa we had found in the cabin pantry. The forest was quiet, except for the distant hoot of an owl. "This was better than any hike," Emily whispered. I nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we started something today. We remembered who we are." When the others finally returned, laughing and carrying stories of their hike, Emily and I exchanged a knowing glance. They had their adventure, but so did we. Theirs had been on the trail. Ours had been in the quiet, in the conversations, in the rediscovery of something we hadn't realized we'd been missing. We started again. Our friendship, our bond, the reminder that sometimes the best journeys don't require leaving at all. And as the night wrapped around the cabin, filled with the chatter of friends and the warmth of the fire, I knew this day would stay with me forever. Not because of what we did, but because of what we found, together.